If you wanted me to speak more highly of you, then you probably should have treated me better. That's what Cat Williams said during his interview with Shannon Sharpe last year. Which leads me to ask, how do you guys feel about good old truth telling? Kid Cudi took the stand in the Diddy trial a couple of days ago, and what he had to say isn't necessarily what people are mad about. It's the fact that he had anything to say at all. There are people that hold actual malice in their heart for the fact that Kid Cudi was in court detailing the relationship between him and Diddy in relation to the reason that Diddy is on trial right now. Young Thug, who just got off on a RICO case himself, had this to say about Kid Cudi. Damn, Cudi is a rat. I guess he didn't learn from the last time that he tweeted and they tried to violate him on his parole, on his probation. So let's find out what Cudi actually had to say while he was on stand, and if it was anything incriminating, if there was anything in there that people could be mad about him saying.
A lot to break down about what was happening today. We've been talking about Kid Cudi's testimony, week 2 in general. But right now I want to bring on Elizabeth Milner, our long crime reporter, who is inside that courtroom for Kid Cudi's testimony. Now, one of the things I want to ask you about, Elizabeth, is we're reading the transcript, right? We're reading what he said on the stand. What was his tone like? Because I got to tell you, he was hitting one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. By the way, shows up in court, leather jacket, smoking a cigarette. I mean, this is Kid Cudi.
Not a care in the world.
Celebrity comes in. What was the substance of what he was saying? And I got to ask you the tone in which he was saying it.
Well, obviously, I didn't see the cigarette smoking part. I was inside the courtroom when this was going on, but
smoking a jack as you're walking into court while the paparazzi is taking a picture of you, hey, that's wild aura. That is some wild, wild aura that Cudi got. But, you know, he a famous superstar.
It was a packed courtroom today, Jesse, despite it being very cold outside today, despite it even pouring down raining this morning when I came to court today. A lot of people were inside that courtroom because a lot of people wanted to know, what did Scott Mescudi, aka Kid Cudi, really have to say? So when he walks inside the courtroom, to your point, Jesse, he was very, very casual. He had on a leather jacket. It was a little bedazzled. He had on a white t-shirt. He had on jeans, something that you kind of really don't see necessarily, especially in federal court. I mean, all the other witnesses have been in suits, even some of the escort witnesses, but for Kid Cudi, he just came in very casual. He just walked right to the witness stand, didn't pay Diddy any type of attention from what I could see of him, but he got onto the witness stand and swore that oath like he normally, like all the other witnesses do, and then that's when we got into the testimony. And let me just say, Jesse, there was so much testimony. I was just writing things down and down and down again because there was really so much, and we knew about kind of the Molotov cocktail incident, especially because it was laid out in Cassie's federal lawsuit, right? But just hearing Kid Cudi explain it from his own words were just a whole nother level, I could say.
So people were laughing, right? People were laughing when he was testifying because he made that one comment that he sees Sean Combs. He had a meeting with him and said he looked like a Marvel supervillain. Were people laughing?
No. Yes, people were laughing, but if you're going to ask if Diddy was laughing, it didn't seem like he found that joke necessarily funny, but there was definitely some courtroom laughter, even from some of the jurors who were in the box. They were laughing as well, too, but from what I could see of Diddy, it didn't seem like he had much laughter going on in that specific moment, which was a complete 180 from kind of his demeanor when George Kaplan was testifying. Where
having the jury laugh at somebody's testimony like they're putting on a comedy show while you're about to go to jail, possibly for the rest of your life.
He seemed a little more jovial. He was laughing along. But when Kid Cudi came on the stand, it felt like the smile just went down, and he had more of a serious demeanor and serious tone listening to Kid Cudi testify. And
because, you know, Kid Cudi was providing some quite important pieces of damning evidence against Sean Combs. I mean, talk to us about his direct examination. What were some of the highlights that you took away from his direct examination? Because the prosecution, in my opinion, I was talking about it before, they're calling him not only to corroborate, I think, the account of Cassie, but to establish some of the elements of racketeering, right? The underlying crimes of maybe kidnapping, arson. Talk to us about some of the big moments from his direct examination, and then we'll talk about what the cross-examination was like.
Right, because the jury has been hearing about Scott Mescudi a lot, and they've been referring to Kid Cudi as Scott Mescudi during this. So seeing Kid Cudi in the flesh, I'm sure a lot of people wanted to know, what did he have to say about December 2011 specifically? Now, around that time frame, police actually responded to Kid Cudi's then home. He's no longer in that home anymore now, but they responded to a call about a break-in at his home. So he said that day actually started with a call from Cassie herself about 5:30, 6:30 in the morning. And Cassie relayed to Kid Cudi that Diddy had found out that the two were dating, and she sounded kind of stressed during this phone call. So what Kid Cudi did was he picked her up. He took her to a hotel called Sunset Marquis, so that way it was a little safe for her to kind of hang out there and be at that hotel. But Kid Cudi at the time said he didn't think that Cassie was even dealing with Diddy at this point. Diddy had asked actually for Kid Cudi's address around this time, and one of the big moments was that Cassie was the one who actually gave Diddy Kid Cudi's address. And so Kid Cudi said he didn't know what Diddy was going to do. Then when he was at the hotel, he actually got a call, or he had spoken to Capricorn Clark, somebody that was Cassie's friend, but also somebody that had worked for Diddy. And so when Kid Cudi was speaking to Capricorn Clark,
imagine making $453,000 in a single month as an affiliate marketer without relying on Google.
It was for Diddy. And so when Kid Cudi was speaking to Cassie's friend, but also somebody that had worked for Diddy. And so when Kid Cudi was speaking to Capricorn Clark, Capricorn sounded scared on this phone call, pretty much on the verge of tears, because it was Diddy, one of his affiliates, an unnamed person, and Capricorn Clark were at Kid Cudi's home. Kid Cudi was kind of describing that essentially Capricorn Clark was essentially taken by physical force to go with them to Kid Cudi's home while Kid Cudi wasn't even there. So Kid Cudi could verify that Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, whatever we're calling him, was inside his home when he wasn't there. Kid Cudi said that he actually went home after speaking with Capricorn Clark and just kind of rushed over there. Then we see an exhibit photo of the entrance of Kid Cudi's old home. It's the home of the break-in, and you see the front gate door. And he described his neighborhood at the time being as far as being very quiet, family oriented, and they had to kind of mention that he was driving a Porsche around that time. So Kid Cudi actually called Diddy while he was driving home, and there was some profanity here, so bear with me, everyone. He said, "Mother effer, are you in my house?" And Diddy said, "I just want to talk to you. I'm here waiting for you." And surprisingly, Kid Cudi explained that Diddy sounded relatively calm.
Motherfucker, you don't wait in my house for me. That's what Diddy is moving like a Marvel villain, as Kid Cudi said he was. You don't wait in my house till I show up. Talking about somebody, I just want to talk to you.
While he was on the phone speaking to him. So Kid Cudi thought his security cameras were working, and turns out he said someone kind of had moved them and angled them a little bit down, so that way I guess whatever was going on wasn't captured on that video. And they had moved them the opposite angle, and said Kid Cudi verified he wasn't the one who moved those security cameras. But when he got home, Jesse, he said gifts were open on the kitchen counter. Stuff was pretty expensive. It was from Chanel. And that his dog, surprisingly, was locked in the bathroom. Now, his dog normally roams around free like a lot of our pets normally do. I mean, my cats right now are probably wandering around. I would never lock them inside the bathroom while I'm out of home or anything like that. So I can understand why that really stood out to him as far as his dog being inside the bathroom with the door closed. But he had that dog for about a 2-year period, and noticed that after this break-in had happened that his dog became jittery and was always on edge at the time. So Kid Cudi got back into his car, he says, and called Diddy because he wanted to fight Diddy. He wanted to square up essentially and just find him and fight him because he believed that Diddy broke into his home. And so he said after this phone call, he thought about the reality of the situation and what more could possibly escalate from that situation. So what he ended up doing is he just called the police. And when he had returned home, because remember, he was driving around looking for Diddy, essentially wanting to fight him, he says. And when he returned home, the police were there at his home. He filed a report, and then he was speaking with Cassie about the situation. And Cassie seemed pretty depressed about the situation, according to Kid Cudi while he was on the stand. And then he had said, because this was around December of 2011, and we know that shortly after that, Kid Cudi had spent the holidays with Cassie over at her family's home in Connecticut, and then they broke up shortly after. But the thing is, a few weeks later, January 9th of 2016, again, a few weeks after his break-in, his car caught on fire, or not even caught on fire. A Molotov cocktail was lodged into the driver's side of his car, of his Porsche, mind you. And we saw a lot of exhibit photos from that Molotov cocktail being inside, or not being inside that car, but we saw the aftermath.
That's where I'm going to go ahead and pause it. I'm going to make sure that the Law and Crime channel, they're down in the description so you guys can check out the full video. But we got what we needed for the discussion that we're going to have here today. Cudi is called into court and he's on the stand confirming things that have already been said. They already know about the car. They already know about the break-in from Cassie's testimony. He's there. He's adding context. He's answering questions as he's being asked because he was called to testify. But regardless of if he was called or not, at what point does a black man just get to exist in society and have equal protection under the law? Somebody breaks in your house, you call the police. Or do we have to pay taxes? Do we have to get deductions from our checks just like everybody else does? But we don't get to use the same benefits and systems that everybody else gets to use. Is that what I hear people saying? Cudi, he's on the stand talking about the break-in. His stuff is being sifted through, his Christmas gifts. And what people wanted him to do apparently was crash out. That's what Thug wanted. And that's what Glasses Malone wanted. Here's what Glasses Malone tweeted before Cudi went on the stand. Let's see if Cudi keeps it hip hop tomorrow. Let's see if Cudi is going to endure his car being set on fire, his house being broken into, his stuff being rummaged through, and he says absolutely nothing. Let's see if Kid Cudi keeps it hip hop. Let's see if he gets on the stand, lies, puts his own freedom in jeopardy so he can let a man that burned his car, broken his house, and opened up his gifts be allowed to roam free. That's keeping it hip hop. No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. There's this no snitching thing that's been following the black community for a long time. Guess who benefits when nobody's allowed to say what's going on in their neighborhoods and what's going on here and what's going on there? It's the person that's causing all of the terror. That's who benefits. Everybody else has to live in chaos and disarray because the losers of society say so? Nah. You got to throw your life away when a dude pops at your house instead of calling the police because the losers of society said we aren't allowed to play in the system that we pay into. Taxpaying citizens not allowed to talk to the police. I can see if it's a group of people engaging in criminal activity and everybody has to be responsible for everything that they signed up for. I can see that. But what about the majority of society, the majority of black people that just go to work, they pay their taxes, and they abide by the law? They're not allowed to talk to the police or take the stand to set the record straight. Keeping the hip hop is keeping your mouth closed. Diddy may or may not be guilty. They still have a long way to go in this 8-week trial. But for what he's being accused of, Cudi is just telling his part. He's adding the context, adding the details, because Cassie already got up there, told part of that story, and she's even the person that sold him up the river. She gave out his address when they were supposed to be in a relationship, and she's behind his back having freak-offs with Diddy. This is a vital part of conspiracy. The relationship part, the Molotov cocktail, and the break-in that resulted from either Diddy being cheated on or Diddy being upset that Cassie is dealing with somebody else. It's cool when Diddy's throwing cocktails in people's cars or having somebody do it when he's breaking in people's houses. But you want to be the tough guy until it's time to go to court. Be the tough guy all the way. For everybody else that just wants to live a regular life, don't be the guy breaking into people's houses because your ex moved on. Don't be the guy dealing with a woman about to crash out because she's playing defense between her old relationship and this new relationship with you. And once again, we're going to repeat the quote from Cat Williams. If you wanted me to speak more highly of you, then perhaps you should have treated me better. Those are my thoughts. If you like the video, subscribe to me back here for the next conversation. If you have something to say, let the world know. This is the place for discourse. Until next time, peace.